Welcome to Let's Talk Kenmore, a lighthearted podcast aimed at connecting our listeners to their local government and demystifying the role of government in the city of Kenmore. I'm your host, Amber Clifton. In this episode, I chat with two members of the band Fire Marshall Ventura, Norman Baker and Chava Mirel. Fire Marshall Ventura is our first band scheduled to play in our summer concert series lineup. Please be sure to check them out at St. Ed's State Park on July 16th. And please enjoy this episode of Let's Talk Kenmore. Welcome to Let's Talk Kenmore. I am here with two members of the band Fire Marshall Ventura. I'm here with the bassist, vocalist, and band leader, Norman Baker, and the keyboardist and vocalist, Chava Mirel. And you guys are on the bill to play in Kenmore this month. And so I wanted to sit down and chat with you and so that we can let the folks of Kenmore know what they're going to be in for come July 16th when you guys play in our city. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for carving out time.
Thanks, Amber. It's so nice to be here.
Thanks for having us.
It's so exciting to be able to do this. And I appreciate how flexible you were with this sort of last minute scheduling. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So you both are local, but where did each of you grow up?
I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I was born Capitol Hill, and I went to Garfield High School and lived in many other places over the years as an adult, but I've always returned back to Seattle, and I've been back here for 15 years.
Very cool. What about you, Norman?
I grew up in Kent, Washington, just a little south of Seattle, and Kent Meridian High School and Bellevue College, and basically been in Seattle most of my adult life, living in various neighborhoods in Seattle. Done lots of traveling, but Seattle's always been home.
Same. Yeah. Seattle is a very cool spot, especially for a musician, for sure. When did each of you first start playing music?
I started playing when I was about a year and a half old, and I never stopped from that point on. So
wow,
that was about 48 years ago now.
Oh my gosh, it's just like in your DNA.
Yeah, my parents were doing it, and I just jumped in, and my kid did the same thing.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow. How old is your kid?
My kid's 13.
13, and they're a musician as well?
Yes, they are.
So excited. That's so cool. What about you, Norman?
I started playing guitar about 10 years old and picked up the bass and drums basically right after that, and played guitar and bass in the jazz band in junior high, and then drums in the pep band and percussion. And then at home, I would, on acoustic guitar, I would write like sensitive teenage boy songs. And then with my other friends that are musicians, after school, we'd play like punk and heavy metal. And it was one of those typical things where we were all guitarists. And so someone had to play bass. So that's when I really started getting more into bass, but I've kind of always played everything.
Yeah.
But I started singing when I was like 5. I was singing Cyndi Lauper and Patsy Cline.
Wow.
When I was 5, but didn't really pick up instruments till years later.
Cool. Do either of you have like your first love as far as instruments go? Is it vocals? Is it guitar? Like, what's the thing where it's like, this is my vibe right here?
For me, it's probably guitar and drums.
That's funny because you are the bass player extraordinaire.
Yeah.
But bass is like a kind of a combination of guitar and drums, if in a way, because it's got the bass drum aspect to it. It's percussive, but it's stringed.
Yeah, I'm a vocalist in a band, and I rely heavily on the bass player for my tempo.
Yeah, I mean, I as far as my favorite sounding instruments, are like vibraphone, Hammond B3 organ.
Oh yeah,
upright bass and cello and pedal steel. And then there's like my funnest to play for me would be drums, but I never do it anymore. And then there's like what I'm best at. I'd say bass.
Yeah. That's cool. What about you, Chava?
I think my first love musically was like harmonizing, vocal harmonizing, which is a big part of what we do together in our band. And I wanted to just say about you, Norman, just to reflect to you, like, because you mentioned like 18 different things in that one sentence. And I think like something that you do musically that maybe doesn't have a name for it, but you have an understanding of how to create a soundscape, using all those different sounds. And so you have all these different bands with different different configurations of instruments and personnel to create the sound that you want for that particular thing. And I mean, I see you doing it all over the place. So it's really cool what you do.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
How many members are in this band and how did all of you meet?
We're a 6-piece for the Kenmore summer concerts. Sometimes we have a few more members. Sometimes it's a 4 or 5-piece. Just kind of depends on. Chava and I met. Weren't we hired for a different reggae band?
Yes.
First time we met.
Yeah.
Like 15 years ago.
Yeah,
or something?
I was in a band, and you were hired to sub for one gig, University Street Fair, and
Oh, that's right.
I met you there. And you had influenced the band I was in because your band at the time had a song that like the tempo slowed at the end, like you did like a manual, like the record slowing down kind of vibe. And the band that I was in, the band leader was really influenced by you. And so he was like, oh yeah, we got to do this thing. And he was trying to work it out. So like, I already kind of knew about you from before as an influential person because you had, been the source material for this one thing we were trying in that band. So then when I met you, I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy,
That's so cool. That's probably very hard to do. Slow down the tempo and have everybody stay on tempo. That's tricky.
Yeah, it's like goes against everything you learn as a musician as far as like staying in the pocket and in the groove. You're like, oh, can we still be grooving when it's slow?
Yeah. I'm going to jump out of the pocket, but we're going to stay in the groove. Got it? Okay.
Yeah, all together. And it's like a sound that we'd heard, like you hear it like from this other source, like a record player that's slowing down. Okay. And a lot of the reggae things that we're doing is trying to replicate like DJ sounds, like the way that people use records. And so it's kind of like in that same vein. It's like you take a record and you slow it down and then you see if you could do that as a band manually.
That's so tricky. That's
the sound is in your ears because you've heard it before.
For sure. Wow, that is so cool. So cool. Okay, so I need to know, Fire Marshall Ventura, where does this name come from?
Any wild guesses?
Well, when I hear Ventura, I think Ace Ventura. The rest, I just don't. Well, wasn't Jim Carrey also a fire marshal?
Yes.
In Saturday Night Live. Was it Saturday Night Live?
It was
in Living Color. Okay.
Yeah. Fire Marshal
Bill. There it is. Okay.
So you're from a generation because like the Gen Z people don't know about it, but
us Gen Xers do. I was there.
We were there.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always one of the many things I do is since I was a teenager, I've always just dreamt of bands and starting bands. So I just have this like ongoing, like decades long list of band name ideas that I've thought of over the decades, and that's one of them. As you mentioned, it's a combination of two different Jim Carrey characters, and it's like obviously like Jim Carrey and those shows don't necessarily have much to do with reggae or Jamaican music, but I thought the name as itself is a good name, and whether or not people understand the reference, also I still think it stands alone as a fun band name. So it's kind of like, it's okay with me if people get it, and it's okay if people don't get where it comes from. It's still just
and it's memorable and it gets people talking. Like, I wonder what that is. For sure.
And I mean, I was trying to tell people, when you have fire in the name of your band, it does like implicate that you have something to do with reggae. It has like a connotation. So anyone who knows that scene would probably be able to like pick it out as something that they were interested in.
Some Jamaican and like Rasta music and stuff, sometimes there is like an element of like army fatigues and military type stuff or authority type stuff, even though
the fire marshal,
that's debatable, but
it's a funny title.
I got a message on Instagram from someone, and he sent me a picture of a Fire Marshal Ventura sticker. He's like, I got to tell you, a friend of mine was in London and he saw this sticker on a pole that said Fire Marshal Ventura. He took a picture and sent it to me. And I looked you up, I found your music, and I got to say, I really love it. It's like my favorite genre and favorite type of music. And the reason why I reached out is because I live in Ventura, California, and I'm the fire marshal.
Stop it.
Fire department. So I am Fire Marshal Ventura. And we really hope you come to Ventura sometime. And
okay, that is awesome. And that is like weird serendipity. That is so cool. Wow. Good for him for reaching out and that's the coolest story.
Yeah. And the sticker, I was in London with my dad last year, and I was putting a few stickers up. So that's how I got there. And my dad was like, as we were walking around, my dad was like annoyed. He's like, son, what's your goal? You know, because I'm vandalizing.
Right,
you know,
right.
He's like, what is your goal with this? And I was like, oh, just fun, name recognition and representing and just leaving a trail. And so then, you know, he's kind of like mocking me or whatever, but it was fine. But then it was when I got that message on Instagram, I was like, haha, see, it's working. I took a screenshot and sent it to him. I'm like, it's working, Dad.
It's totally free.
You should have called your dad. Goal achieved. Yeah. That's incredible. That's so funny. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, what were some of your influences growing up? Like, what did you listen to? What do you find yourself kind of leaning into when you're performing as far as like your influences go?
Norman, you mentioned Patsy Cline, and you were like Patsy Cline punk, and what else?
Well, yeah, when I was like 5, I loved Patsy Cline, Cyndi Lauper, the Beatles, and Bob Marley. And I always loved, and both my parents were musicians, so that's how I heard of all those artists. And then like later in elementary, it was like gangster rap and 90s R&B. Yeah. And then a couple of years later, when I started playing instruments and the grunge scene and started happening in Seattle, then I got into all that and grunge and punk and heavy metal. And plus I was a teenager, so that's like kind of common for teenager musicians. But I still listened to and liked all the other stuff that I previously mentioned. But then, and I always loved Bob Marley and reggae too. And that was about my extent of my knowledge of reggae music. And then like in the late 90s, discovered bands like 311 and Sublime that were like the crossover, like rock, reggae, rap, ska, rock, reggae. And I really loved that in high school. And then right after high school, I got a work study position when I was at Bellevue College at the radio station there, KBCS 91.3, and was exposed to their, you know, they have a vast catalog and library of all world music, and like the reggae section, I just dove straight into their reggae library and discovered like, oh my gosh, there's so much more than Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Burning Spear, which is about all I knew at the time. And then like just started learning, oh my gosh, the Viceroys, the Melodians, the Mighty Diamonds, Israel Vibration, Don Carlos, Barrington, oh my God. And it just, the list keeps going. And that was like over 20 years ago. But once I discovered like the vast amount of Jamaican artists and reggae music, then I kind of got over like the whole reggae rock thing. And I was like, okay, if I'm playing reggae music, I want to be playing just reggae music. I personally don't really want to mix it with rock anymore or like other genres. I want to do as good of a job at like paying respect to like reggae music as it was originally made.
Just kind of keeping it pure.
That's just me personally.
Yeah.
But I just have to say, Norman, you also have bands of many different other styles that reflect your other influences as well.
Yeah. And when I'm on stage, I don't know what I'm trying to channel. I'm just, I guess, as far as the bass, I'm trying to channel Family Man, the Wailers bass player, Aston Family Man Barrett, or Robbie Shakespeare, Sly and Robbie. And then as far as singing, I'm just trying to figure out how to use my voice well and blend it with Chava and Jonathan, because when we sing together in 3-part harmony, it's like a pretty special thing.
Yeah.
It's the best.
What about you, Chava? Who are your influences?
Well, I have a lot of influences. like any person, I grew up listening to all the music around me, and I like memorized every song off the radio, whatever I had access to. Here in Seattle, it was like Cube 93 or
Oh
like
my gosh, T-Man.
KLSY or yeah, exactly. Like I was obsessed with, I knew every DJ. I'd call and make requests. So,
Mhm.
pop music was always just like, Michael Jackson and Madonna and Prince and like all of that and every song. And Norman and I both also do a lot of cover like work getting hired for weddings. Norman plays 1,000 weddings a year,
Wow.
with the bands that, get hired to do that. And it's like just as fun as playing originals is trying to replicate these songs that taught you what music was. So
Mhm.
we love that kind of stuff too. And, the music that we're playing in this band, it is kind of the same as that in a way. I mean, the music that we're playing basically is Jamaican music from like the 60s, which was music that was influenced by soul and Motown and like even doo-wop that the folks in Jamaica were able to access through like transistor radio waves. And then they were putting their spin on it, but they were just like kind of covering the songs in a way.
Yeah.
And those were the foundations of all the Jamaican music that came after it. And when I moved, basically what happened is that I decided, like Norman said, I wanted to play like the real thing. I didn't want a replica or some facsimile. I wanted the real thing. So I had to
Yeah.
move to New York actually, because
Well,
there
yeah.
were not enough people from Jamaica in Seattle to satisfy my needs. So I moved to New York, and there was a record store there owned by someone who had lived in Jamaica, a New Yorker. And he had all these connections with all these Jamaican artists. And he also knew all of the songs, and he had the records, and he had a band, and he hired me to sing. And he wanted me to know the exact origin of every song. And so he'd give me the first recording, the source material, and then he'd give me like the very most important recordings of those same rhythms, is what they're called, which is basically based on the bass line. So
Mhm.
I had to learn the original bass line and vocals, and then I from the 60s.
Uh-huh.
And it was usually men singing with very high voices, like in a falsetto.
Okay.
And then, so a lot of men couldn't actually do the singing job, like our kinds of, American dudes
Mhm.
couldn't do that. So he had to hire a woman to do it. So I learned those, and then I learned all of the other versions, they call them. And he gave me the records to take home, and I put them on tape because that was still the year 2002 or something. We didn't have the digital anythings, still.
Yeah.
And I wrote out, and I tried to figure out the lyrics in patois because they didn't have them online. It wasn't
Oh my
even,
gosh.
we didn't have access to any of those resources. So it was all like by hand, off records, like
Mhm.
backing it up over and over again and trying to learn. And so that was my education in this style of music. And it's very hard to find other people that want to do like that.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
when I met Norman and he actually wanted to do this and he asked me to do it, of all people, I felt so honored. And that was the point where we rehearsed.
Mhm.
Um, Amber asked me off camera what our rehearsal schedule was, Norman.
I was blown away that you don't have one, that you guys are just
I,
so fine-tuned that it's like, let's just play a gig without running through your set.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Sometimes we get
Jeez.
to, and
we had
we
a couple
play
times
pretty
a
often.
year we
So
rehearse, to really work out stuff that we want to change or to improve. But like we do have recordings of the original source material, and
Mhm.
then we have our own spin on it too. But we're practicing every day, every time we play music in
Right.
any genre. It's
Of
still
course. Yeah.
practicing for that. So,
That's
and
so
it keeps it
cool.
fresh.
Mhm. Also, what a treat that guy in New York gave to you, because that sounds like a teacher where maybe at the time you're like, "Oh my gosh, but I mean, what a gift to really know the music in that way,
A
you know?
100%. I mean, you
Gosh.
can't buy that. You
No.
cannot,
Uh-uh.
and I was
No.
willing to learn it, and he was glad to find a receptacle or someplace to put the knowledge, because
Mhm.
he played the bass, but he couldn't sing any of the songs, so he
Right.
needed someone else to do that for
Right.
him,
That is so
you know.
cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And honestly, like the writing things down, that is the best way to learn. I do that still, even though it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessary. When I'm trying to memorize lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
I physically write. I don't type it. I don't read
Mm,
it. I write it out. I listen and write and listen
that's
and
what they
write, you
say.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Gets it into your
Yeah,
body.
I'm
Mhm.
I'm pretty similar with that. Like, I mean, I do
Mhm.
type it out, but still, like, I don't go and copy. I don't go Google the lyrics and copy it and then put it
Right.
onto a thing. I actually, even though you can, obviously,
Mhm.
but I actually just listen to the song and I type it out because, like you said, it helps you memorize it.
Yeah.
And I'm a kind of a visual person anyway, like photographic memory, so it
Mhm.
helps just doing that process on. I might not even need the lyrics after I type it out and create a doc with it, but it's just kind of part of
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
process.
It's a good
Totally.
process to have.
Now, I will say there's a resource that I didn't have available to me at the time, but that is available now, which is a website called rhythmguide.com. And literally, you can type in any song. It will tell you the name of the rhythm because, like, that's not immediately apparent just by hearing the bass line what it's
Uh-huh.
called. Sometimes it's not even named anything to do with any of the songs that were from it, and then it tells you every version of that song, which artist recorded it, what year they recorded it in, who
Seriously?
produced it. Yes. And so you can actually, if you hear a rhythm and you can find out what the title of that one track is, you type it in there and it will tell you, what was the original Studio One version in 1968, basically.
Whoa.
So
Oh
that was
my gosh.
information that people just had to like kind of piece together in like a
Mhm.
scavenger hunt in the past. But now somebody has done the hard work of putting that information
That's very cool.
online.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
use it all the time.
That's so cool. All right, let's talk about some of your singles because you've got a lot of singles that have been released.
So we started putting out some singles this year, and we're still like fairly a new band, so it's some of our
Mhm.
first releases. And so the idea for this first chunk of singles is we're releasing a bunch of covers of like some of our biggest influences, but like old school deep cuts from some lesser known artists from Jamaica from back in the day, and putting a little bit of our own spin on it. But obviously we're not Jamaican, but we're trying to stay true to that sound. And yeah, there's some deep cuts that a lot of people haven't heard before. So we got some old Alton Ellis songs, the Inspirations, the Pioneers. Put out one called "Take Back Your Duck," which is a fun one.
That's cool.
Take Back Your Duck. It's kind of a ska rocksteady tune. I think it's about a poultry transaction gone bad or something like that as far as the lyrics. And then we put out another single called "I Can't Stand It." It's an old Alton Ellis song, and our friend Winston Jarrett from Jamaica was in Alton Ellis's band, Alton Ellis and the Flames. Winston Jarrett was one of the Flames back in the day, and he moved to Seattle, I think, in like early 2000 or something, and we were his backing band for a good chunk of years. I did lots of touring and playing with him, and playing old songs that had him on the
Yeah.
recordings is a pretty special thing. And he's still doing it too. He's still in Seattle and still performing. And then I put out a single that I composed and produced for a Jamaican like reggae dancehall star named Turbulence that I produced and wrote all the music, and then sent him my instrumentals and he wrote lyrics. And when he was in town last summer, we were hired to be his backing band, and we recorded his vocals at my home studio, and then just put out that single a couple months ago. So it's under his name, Turbulence, and that song is
Cool.
called Lonely Highway. That one's a more like a little modern. It's still like roots reggae, but it has a little more modern urban flavor to it as
Yeah.
well.
I'll put all of that in the show notes so folks can go and listen to that. That's very cool. So you guys do covers and originals, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And Norman, are you the primary songwriter then for the group?
I do have a chunk of originals that we're working on. So that's after putting out these singles of covers, the next thing is doing a full length of originals. Might throw in a few covers, but yeah, I've got a chunk of 8 or 9 originals for that album, and Jonathan's got an original, and I'd like to work Hava's originals stuff in there. We're all very busy,
It
so
sounds like it. Jeez, you guys are all doing multiple projects.
But there's also like even if I wrote the song or Jonathan or if it's a cover, like definitely everyone has like their own, and Kava's and and Jonathan are definitely a big part of like arrangement ideas and coming up with ideas. And a lot of the covers that Hava sings, she's got all these like brilliant ideas to go from like she's been talking about with different versions on these old rhythms that we do, and she'll sing like 5 different songs over this one rhythm and going back and forth between them. And so that's really cool.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So it's a collaborative effort for sure.
Definitely, everyone has their own special flavor and piece that makes the sound what it is. Sometimes we have to get subs for a certain instrument, and definitely the sound of the band, like if we have to swap out someone for a show, like the sound definitely changes a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have, so with this iteration, with this lineup of this band, do you have a gig that has been most memorable so far?
I'd say the Anthony B gig that we did a few months back was pretty memorable. He's like one of the most high profile Jamaican artists that I've ever gotten to back. And he was really fun.
Yeah, that was
Where was that at?
Really fun. At Nectar.
Oh, the Nectar Lounge. That's a cool spot.
Yeah, Nectar Lounge. We were the opening act, and we backed him up. That was really special.
That's cool.
The backing up Turbulence was a blast. It was kind of a different iteration of the group, but I mean, anytime we play, it's sometimes like with the main core of the band, which we're gonna have at the Kenmore summer concerts. Like every time we're on stage, it feels really special, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I get to play with Hava and Leif and Jonathan and Chris Pogue and Jake Evans on drums. It's like I feel like I have a little revelation every time we play on like new ideas.
Especially to be outside in that beautiful space like that. It's so inspiring. So those are definitely my favorite gigs with the band, when we get to play outside, and play for the people.
It's a different energy.
All ages, families. Like that's just such an uplifting environment to play music. Like it just brings a different energy than just playing at a bar at night, and with the bands, honestly, most of our opportunities are at night at bars, and we don't get to have our families come, or all ages. I will say Norman's mom has come to almost every single one of our gigs. So as far as family representation, she is very
a
supportive.
True fan.
Yeah, and our families do come out, so it's nice to be able to invite everyone out and celebrate like that.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. How did the Kenmore gig come to be?
Devon Leger reached out to me a couple months ago and asked us if we could do it, and that's like, I have so much respect for him and everything he does in the community, and so that was actually really special honor for him to reach out to us and have us there.
Yeah, he has an impressive resume for sure. He's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you played in Kenmore before?
I have. I did this same concert series with Clinton Farron back in 2013, I believe. Okay. I remember that because my child was an infant. We were somehow trying to juggle this child while I was playing on the stage, but it was such a beautiful, like it was so memorable because it was so beautiful. And,
was it at St. Ed's in that same spot with the old Catholic school? It's such a cool structure, that historical building.
It's really special. I remember driving up to it and just being totally overwhelmed, and it was such a good feeling to be there with the community. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to your guys' show. What about you, Norman? What are you looking forward to with the Kenmore show?
Oh man, just getting our music into hopefully some new ears and making an impression, and like Hava was saying, being able to play for family-friendly crowds that are, community-oriented, free, so it's like anyone can come out. There's no excuses as far as, I can't afford the cover charge, or don't have a babysitter,
right?
Or it's too late on school night, like and just seeing people dance and getting our music into new ears. You know, even though we've got like a lot of solid songs, there's still like an element of improv, like kind of in a jazz way, but to each show, because you know we do a lot of soloing and taking the arrangements in different directions. So every concert we do, even though we're playing the same songs, there is a little bit of a different take on it every time. That's kind of a fun way to keep it fresh.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Different people solo went on different tunes. So there's a lot of structure to our songs, but then there's these other little ways that we can put different spins on them.
Yeah.
Each time.
Yeah. That is so cool.
I don't know how to explain it other than
No, I get it. And you have to sometimes read the vibe, right, of the audience. Is like you have to be willing to pivot with your set list and with like read the room and just be flexible of like, all right, they want more, or not so much of this. And but no, picking up what you're putting down.
We would go,
yeah,
thanks. Like sometimes we go into like dub sections, like instrumental sections, and keys and guitars are throwing different effects to just like make it spacey. And then like Chris Pogue on sax and flute and baritone and percussion, he's like ace up the sleeve. He'll grab a microphone that he's got going through a delay pedal, and he'll run over the drums and put it on the snare drum and do like these like live dubbing effects that you hear on records, but that those dubbing effects on snare drums and stuff and the delays and stuff like that was all done in post-production. So having ways to like recreate that live is a lot of fun. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love all really that. You know what? I can see why you are an influencer, Norman, and how you can spark ideas for other musicians. Because I've already got like the wheels turning. We've got some really cool sounds on our albums that we'll never be able, or I thought, to duplicate on stage, because it's so many tracks of so many instruments. And I'm like, we are falsely advertising this song because it will. But I didn't think to think out of the box like that. That's really cool. Huh. All right. I'm going to take that little nugget of information with me.
I mean,
back to rehearsal, which we do have to do.
Well, if you could keep everything like fun and playful, then it never feels like work. Yeah. It never feels tedious. And it's always like a new adventure. But we also have, in the style of music that we play, we want to be true to, the messages. And, we're not like Rastafarian. So we usually don't do that element of the music from Jamaica. We sing a lot of love songs, and we sing a lot of songs about just culture, but we also sing songs about, uplifting the community and empowering people to, stand up for their rights. And, we do like those positive messages, and especially in times when people really like sometimes feel, like they don't know where to get their hope from. Like music can be one main source of uplifting for the community that, if they can come and get it for free and they don't even have to think about it, they can just dance and enjoy it and also be uplifted at the same time. That's always a plus.
Agreed. Music is medicine for sure. Well, I will be at the show and I am very excited. Anything else you want the folks to know before we sign off? Where can people find you?
Instagram and Facebook, on wherever you stream music. Find Fire Marshall Ventura Bandcamp.
Yeah, and the best way you can support us is if you are listening to a reggae show on the radio, you can always call and request a song from Fire Marshall Ventura, because this genre is very niche, It's like one request could really make the difference between you get a radio airplay or not. So, that's totally. Like a super helpful thing someone can do. Or follow us.
Okay, that's good to know. You guys are so cool. I'm so glad we did this. I am stoked for the show July 16th at St. Ed's State Park in Kenmore for free. Thank you guys so much for making time. I appreciate
you, Amber.
So fun. You bet. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
See you then.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Let's Talk Kenmore. Be sure to check back for more interesting topics and conversations. And as always, don't forget to ask yourself, where's the fun?